All right, everybody. Happy March 31st. Today is the last day of March, and we told you guys we would be getting you a beta in March. A lot of you guys signed up for that. So we have been slaving trying to get the tool in a form that we can release as a beta and help you guys get started. We have something that we are super excited about, even though the immediate functionality as far as like modules like building an adventure game or building a platform game or whatever have taken a back seat to making the tool even more versatile. There's still so much that's cool here, and I'm really curious to see what you guys come up with it. Josh and I are currently getting the licensing structure together. In the next day or two, we have to populate a list with everyone who's getting beta access by name and email, and you'll be getting an email with how to download the software and how to access it via a license. So without further ado, I wanted to show you a couple of the new things that were added. There's no one thing that I'm really showing off today. Where I was showing off the music engine, I was showing off the how to make monsters, whatever. This one's just some changes to the tool, so I'm not really making an official Nest Maker features video. I just wanted to show you guys, the Kickstarter backers especially, what we've been up to and how far we've been able to improve the tool just in the last couple of weeks. First of all, Josh has spent a long time on making a music playback engine. I've been talking about that. So this is really cool. Ordinarily what we'd have to do is we'd have to listen to a song in FamiTracker and export the text. And I showed you guys this in the last one, and then import it. And then we just have to know by the name what it sounded like. What if you wanted to listen and make sure that it was the right one? There was no way to do that from in the tool. And of course, we're going to be making our own music creation software. So this was super important. We didn't really anticipate getting this till May, but Josh really wanted to get this out of the way. So I'm going to import the same one we listened to last time, Luke's song here. And now what's really cool is inside the tool, we've got play, stop, and we can even export the WAV file. We can turn on and off different channels to hear what it sounds like with just the percussion, or just the percussion and bass, or just what the melody and harmony sound like together. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and here it is playing in the tool. So most of you guys recognize that was this tune right here. So it's close enough for rock and roll for sure. That was huge. That was a huge piece of what we've been working on, and that's going to really lead us easily into having a piano roll where you're able to compose music in here. We've got all the different sounds being represented, so you can hear back what you're actually playing. And Josh is working on a couple other things for this interface as well, like a pause and a loop and things like that. So very cool stuff there. That's a little thing. I also wanted to show you guys some changes to the interface as far as objects. So one of the things, this is about to get an overhaul too. This is the next thing that we'll be tackling. But inside animation info, you'll notice a few things that are different if you've been watching the videos. One is these nice sliders for things like speed, acceleration speed, jump speed. Before it was like arbitrary numbers, you didn't know what was a fast speed or a slow speed or what would be a good speed. A speed had to be a number between 0 and 16 really, and acceleration had to be a number between 1 and 256. And how would you know that? Well, we've made it kind of easy, slow to fast. Here's your speed. Here's your acceleration. And what speed is actually going to do is it's going to break down the bytes for you into low byte and high byte speed. You don't have to think about that kind of stuff. So basically, this is stopped. This is half speed. This is full speed. Full speed is blazingly fast. That's a bullet across the screen. So you have a lot of gradients in here to play with to get things the right speed. Jump speed may or may not apply to you depending on what type of game you're making. Next thing is in actions. Each step now has an animation speed with this nice little slider, but more importantly, in your actions have a timer as well. It was a single timer for every action, and you'd have the action timer and the animation timer, and you'd be able to choose which one you wanted to activate the next action or whatever. Now you can actually set a timer between 0 and 255, and so you can make actions that happen very slowly or actions that happen very quickly. So this gives you a lot more flexibility. And coming soon, and this is something a lot of you guys were probably be super excited about. We are testing out right now a system to have more than 4 animations, really to have any number of animations that you want, as long as it can still continue to fit in the ROM. So we're still working on the interface for that. We're also working on a play, so you can actually see the animation playing right here. Instead of having to compile to see it in game, or do this method here where you just go down and test it against each other like that. But yeah, so that's a really cool thing. I don't want to commit to that yet. We're actually in the process right now. It's something we were doing tonight, is working on the new animation engine that has, it could be an arbitrary number, however long you want your animation to be, rather than sticking to 4 frames. So that's super cool. The other thing that I've been really killing myself over the last few weeks, the thing that I've been focusing all my energy on, is creating what are called macros. And Mystic Search has had macros already, but how we're going to be using them for you guys, I'm going to try and demonstrate just how cool this is going to be. So these are macros right here. Macros are, let me go to one that's short enough so I can walk you through. Okay. Load name table data. There you go, right here. This loads all the tiles for a screen. When I want to run this function, I need some information. What data bank is the screen data in? What is the label of the name? What's the name of the name table that I want to draw from? Am I loading 8x8 tiles or 16x16 meta tiles? Is it offset for a HUD? Like, are there values that are missing to sort of compress and make your name table read smaller? Like Mystic Search has had that, and it gave us more screens. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want a full screen of name table data, etc. Okay, and then what it does is it uses those arguments and it fills in the variables that it needs and stuff like that, and it runs the routine. And usually it was very complicated on when to run this and how to run this and all this stuff and all the variables you need to feed into it to get it to run. But now it's really simple, and I can actually show you. This is what it'll end up looking like when I load that name table. It needs to know what bank it's in and what label it is. And there's some other arguments too that I don't necessarily need. If we look back, if I look back at macros, the first thing it needs to know is what bank and what name table. And these I'm just ignoring for right now. So I could write anywhere that I want to load a new screen, what bank that screen is in, and what name table, and it'll load. So I've taken what is, a page of code and turned it into one line of code, which you guys can remember. And what we're going to do is we're also going to, in our code editor, I'm going to show this in a second, we want to have the macros, and you'll be able to see when you type in a macro and it recognizes it, it'll let you know what arguments it needs. You don't have to go look it up, and then it's just up to you to fill in the right values to achieve the effect that you want. So these are all examples of macros being used, and I'll show you a couple of fun things. I went ahead and in our code scripts, we've actually made some significant additions to this since the last time you saw it too. First of all, it's actually color coordinated now. It looks a lot more like Notepad++ when you're dealing with ASM file. Also, it's searchable. You can actually search through this function. You can save it. You could write in it. It recognizes comments and turns them green, so you know it's commented out, etc. And I've went ahead and loaded in a few different functions because I want to show you the cool new way that we've added pop-up menus and HUDs and things like that. So it's not really quite the HUD designer yet, but you're going to see how versatile and how useful what I programmed here is going to be able to be, and how diverse it's going to be able to make what you are creating. I'm going to make a pop-up. It's just going to be a pop-up window, and you can think about this like in an RPG where a pop-up window, you have talk and spell and whatever, but it's not just for that. This could be a monster that appears, like a boss that appears on the screen, a giant monster that's made out of name tables, or it could be, for those of you who want to do cutscenes, this could be the way that you would do it. One of the problems with loading name tables is name table data is huge. I'll show you real quick. name table data. So here is the start screen name table. Pull this over. Here's the start screen name table. Lots of data. And ordinarily what would end up happening is we'd try and find ways to load just small parts of it, or whatever, like these values right here. This would be like half of a row of a name table, and we just want to load that much, whatever. It got really tricky, and you have to load this entire data, and that takes up so much ROM space. You can only have so many per bank. But what if you only wanted a small box to load or whatever? All right, so what I've done is I've created this is a name table for a little HUD box, a little pop-up menu, and this is another one. Thought I had another one here. Yes, this one. This is one for a longer sort of top or bottom HUD, and I want to show you a combination of things. I want to show it working and then show how these macros can be used to change things. So lastly, before I actually render this, another big thing that we did was in project labels. First of all, you can actually change the names of a lot of the menu items that you'll find here in labels. For instance, the names of your songs. You can actually edit the value of this song, and it'll actually affect it in the list over here. You could change the name of tiles. You could change the name of the AI actions or whatever. You can actually change them, and the rest of the tool will observe these changes you made. You can also change the name of the tile sets. So if I wanted to change the name, it would show me this name, and that name is referencing this file in your graphic assets. Lastly, this is really cool. Some people might not want to use our built-in emulator because it doesn't say support a lot of the things that are the actual physical game will, like the character animation, the background animation, tile animation, or save data, or things like that. So let's say you want to use a different emulator like FCEUX, which is what we use a lot for testing because it's got a lot of cool debugging features. I can actually choose the emulator, just like I was working with a MAME cabinet or something. Choose where my ROM file is being saved and the name of my ROM file. And now when I hit export and test, instead of opening it up in our custom emulator, it'll open it up in whatever emulator you feel comfortable working in. So maybe there'll be even a better emulator that comes along and we want to transition to that. Cool. If you have the emulator, cool. You hit export and test and it's going to open in that emulator. So here it is in that emulator. Nice little start screen. What I was going to show you is those pop-up menus. So what I did was I went to the input editor, and when I press start, it's going to run my function, which was this, which is going to show a certain box. And when I press select on start screen, when I press select, it's going to do the second function here, which this draws a different box. And basically what the rest of this is doing is saying, if it's not already on the screen, go ahead and draw it on the screen. And then otherwise, if it was all the way on the screen, reverse back to showing the name table that was already there. So let's try that again. So I'm going to hit start. And there, I get this nice little pop-up menu. Press start again, it restores the name table. It's not like in a modern tool where this is actually overlaying. That would be super easy. That would be really convenient. But Nest doesn't work like that. It's actually replacing all of those tiles, and then it's replacing all of the color for that area. And then when I restore it, it has to erase that all, put black there, and then restore all the tile and then all the color. So really cool thing. If I hit select, there's another one. That's like a top HUD. Well, let's pretend for a second I don't want the HUD here at the top. I want it somewhere at the bottom. So I need to change its Y value. Okay, no problem. That was in function number 2, and this right here is determining if I look at my macro. Let's look at the macro for that. That's the draw box macro, and let's see where it tells me about the Y. Here we go. Draw box, the macro. Argument 0 is the left position. Argument 1 is the top position. So this second argument is where it is on the top. Now, it's in basically 8 or 16 pixel grid. And for right now, I'm suggesting keep everything at odd numbers or even numbers. Don't use odd numbers because the odd numbers won't line up with the attribute data, so the colors will be all wonky. But if you stick to even numbers, that shouldn't be a problem. So I think what I'm looking for is OC. Let's try that. So that's basically 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, A, C, E, and then it would start over at 0, 0 again. Okay. And I'm going to change both of these. This is when the box is being drawn. This is when it's being undrawn. I'm going to save that. Export and test. And when I hit select now, there it is at the bottom. I might want it a little bit lower or whatever, but you get the idea. And if I press start, that's still in the same place. Let's say I want to move this menu to the top right over here. Okay, so that was in my function here, and I want to move it to the right. So let's put it at 2, and I want to move it closer to the top. Let's put it at 4. Let's save that. So now that the smaller menu will be at the top left, and my HUD menu will still be at the bottom there. I want it a little bit higher than that. So let's put that at 2. There we go. So let's say, I'm happy with that. Cool. So now that was just showing some of the replacements of the name table that you can do now. And great use for that is something like this, like a pop-up. But even more important is dealing with palettes. I think this is really, really cool and is going to lead to some really cool visual things for your games. We always had a fade, right? Let's take a look at the fade that's up here right now. Yeah, okay. We've always had a fade. This has been a thing that we've had, but it was done completely differently. So when I would press a button, it would fade out like that, and then it would fade up to the next screen. But we wanted more versatility. What if you wanted to do different things with your fades? Mystic Searches just had that one kind of fade. Well, there's nothing saying that you couldn't have more than that one kind of fade. So we made a macro for it. Again, it's kind of like a function. We made a macro for it right here. Begin fade. And first of all, we have it fade to dark or fade to light, which is really cool because maybe you want like to cast a spell, right? Or something like that. So maybe if I hit fade lighten, it's going to fade everything except for the background color right now. So let's take a look at that. So instead of going from this to as dark as it can go, it'll go from this to as light as it can go, which is white. That's pretty cool. One thing that we noticed was that we wanted with Troll Burner. Remember all the electric circuits and things like that were in the background. We always said, "Oh man, if we could make them pulse, that would be so cool looking." But we never sort of got around to making that. Well, I'm going to make this pulse now. Instead of fading once, I'm going to ping pong this by fading as a loop. And let's watch this pulse. So that right now the entire cartridge will pulse. Like that. So that's kind of cool for like, if you had lava glowing or something like that. But, this would actually look cooler if everything here stayed the same, but just this glow, this yellow was glowing. So let's take a look at something real quick. If I look at the PPU viewer, the picture processing unit viewer, I can see where yellow is. It's right here, this color right here. So I need this color to be the only one that's changing. Everything else is going to stay as it is. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the 11th color over. Okay. These bits correlate to those colors that you just saw on the screen. And it was this color right here This is the only one that I want to be active. The rest of these I want to be passive. I want them not to fade. So now I've told it which bits, which colors based on the bit that I want to fade. And it's really only that one, just the yellow. And you know what? I'm going to make it even faster. And what I'm changing here is, if I look, fade speed is argument number 1. So this one is fade speed. This is going to be super fast fade right now. And it's going to just look like it's flashing. And when I hit the button, I get that kind of look. Now, you know, that's going a little bit too deep. I don't want it to go that far. I just want it to flash. So let me start it going dark instead of light. And I'm just going to have it go 1 either way. There we go. So that looks even cooler. Now it has that vibe. And again, since I'm only doing that one color, when I pull up those menus, I don't see, they're not changing color. They're not fading, because that menu right now is using these colors right here. This attribute byte. The attribute byte is using this value. So it's not one that flashes. Now, if I wanted that to be the only thing that flashed, it's not going to make any sense. That was those last colors. And there are a couple other things in the screen that are using those too. You'll see. Basically, that blue, red, and white will be the thing that flashes now. And there you go. So this is using the same. And if I bring that menu up, that's going to flash as well. I mean, this should just make your mind really start thinking about ideas, and sprites can do the same thing, even independently of the objects. So there's some really cool stuff as far as new routines that are easy to write for those of you who are beginning coders. And I know it looks like, oh, there's so much stuff here to remember. Well, we're going to make it so you can easily see what these things should be. And I've actually got a entire document started called NestMaker function list. NestMaker function list. And we're going to probably build this into a website and keep it updated and stuff like that as we add more and more functions, so that it makes it easier to remember with examples and everything like that. So yeah, that's a lot of cool stuff that we have going. And I feel like there's even more stuff that you guys haven't seen, but obviously we've been sort of incredibly busy with all this, trying to get ready for the beta. And the thing that was the most time consuming was restructuring the bytes. Because what we're going to end up wanting is the maximum amount of objects possible for your games. Mystic Searches only needed a certain number of monsters on the screen because of the style of game it was. But what if you've got like a shooter and you need a ton of objects on the screen at a time, or something like that? So we needed to find ways to reduce the number of bytes used by each object, and so we did that, and that's what we have to restructure, how those objects behave and interact with the world, and how the animation routine works and how the drawing routines work, and that we've been doing that, and we're pretty much through that. So super exciting. But yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to, as we're getting ready to send out those licenses and give you guys the download instructions, I wanted to show you guys just some of the new progress. Like I said, I know it's not, there's nothing specific that I showed you there. It's more concept, like the concepts with the input editor and being able to see the codes, and the concepts with these macros that are doing these huge long functions and tons of stuff behind the scenes, but you only have to remember this much of it. And figure out where and when to put it, and how, a reminder of how the input editor works, and showing you guys the fades, and showing you guys the pop-up menus, showing you guys the music playback. So a lot of cool things. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you are a backer that is on the beta tester tier, Please be looking for an email in the next few days. This is not an April Fool's joke. Those emails with instructions and a license will be coming as soon as we can get that list populated. There are a lot of you, so bear with us. You're going to be seeing the survey either tonight, tomorrow, early on Monday at the latest, and we'll need the emails collected from that in order to populate our list for the beta. So really exciting. Can't wait to start working with you guys on creating some cool stuff. And I'll talk to you all soon.